The time is 2:47 a.m. My class was supposed to start at 3 p.m. I've been wandering the halls of this beast they called Maine for days, maybe even months. I have no way of knowing.
Wow.
What was that? If only there were a better way to navigate this abyss.
We began our journey in Old Maine by mapping all of the room locations, their numbers, and their purpose. We based these off of pre-existing emergency evacuation floor plans, which were located on each floor. We decided to address the currently problematic systems of wayfinding in Old Maine in regard to three main ideas. First was creating a visually understandable hierarchy of information in a way that is easy to see and is immediately noticeable. Second, users needed a way to understand the overall layout of any given floor that they're on. And finally, we wanted to create a system that helped users understand the purpose of each location within the building.
My first draft of the directory was basically just to try and get everything laid out. The design was very basic and needed a lot of tweaking. We decided to go with the font Gotham because it's simple and easy to read and more recognizable. We chose these colors to give our signage its own identity separate from Wayne State colors. Brown was chosen for the utilities.
Although the first drafts of the maps included many of the ideas of the final outcome, the layout was far from the final outcome. The color was contained in the borders, which was switched to the heading to make the floor number and department stand out. In the first draft, the floor and departments were mostly listed at the very bottom, with areas of interest added.
Initially, I started out with the idea of trying to make the room signs seem as familiar as possible to the current ones, for the sake of user familiarity. The key difference, however, was that each room number plate included a title, something that described what took place in the room, giving the user an idea of purpose of space. What is this space intended for? What happens here? At that point, ideally, the signs would have been cut from acrylic and wall-mounted.
My final directory included all of the information from the first draft, except I changed the basement to floor 0. I spent a lot of time working on the design, and the colors were changed slightly so they would print correctly. I also created floor signs using the same colors and font from the directory.
Providing a layout of the hallways on each floor was important for the user to find certain room numbers, especially in a building where the rooms are not intuitively laid out like Old Maine. These are located on each floor by staircases and on the columns immediately exiting the elevators, both places where people would enter a new floor. The maps were taken from printouts of the emergency evacuation plans and edited to fit our needs. There are "You Are Here" markers, which are very important for the person to place themselves within the hallways and to find out how to get to their destination. Instead of including all the rooms on the map, the hallways and room numbers within the halls are the only information listed, giving the user an overall sense of the layout and the space. As well as a layout of the actual rooms, inaccessible areas are not included. This helps to limit the information so the user does not become confused. Like the floor signs in the directory, the maps are color-coded to identify the floors easily and quickly. The departments on the floors are listed above the maps and rooms such as labs, galleries, and studios that are included along with new room numbers at the bottom to make them easily identifiable for a user who is looking for a specific room but might not have the number.
In a building like Old Maine, classrooms are always changing. Even in department-specific areas, the rooms are often repurposed over time. Upon revision of our first drafts of signage, we realized that in order to define the purpose of an area whose purpose is constantly changing, we needed a signage system that would allow for user adaptation. At that point, we decided that under ideal circumstances, the signage would be a digital screen for each room and space. It would be linked to a database where designated faculty members would have access to change information displayed on them. At the beginning of each semester, the schedule of classes for each room would be uploaded and displayed on the screen. Additionally, the time would be displayed so users could remain connected to what time it was in accordance to what time their class started. The benefits of this system would also allow for abrupt changes on a day-to-day basis. For example, if a teacher needed to change or cancel a class, the system would allow for the teacher to log into Pipeline, cancel the class, and the information would then be displayed on the digital screen immediately, informing their students of the schedule change.